You know, that really weird dynamic where someone who seems just so nice actually ends up feeling totally threatened by plain, simple honesty. We're going to peel back the layers of our everyday social masks, look at the unspoken rules of how we interact, and figure out what is actually hiding underneath all that overwhelming politeness. Seriously, think about this for a second. Have you ever met someone who's just always smiling, perfectly polite, always saying exactly the right things, but being around them just totally drains you? It's like at first they're your biggest cheerleader, but then, plot twist, the absolute second you speak your mind honestly, or heaven forbid, set a healthy boundary, the whole vibe just freezes over. The warmth vanishes, you start getting these subtle, almost invisible little critiques, and they slowly back away without ever telling you why. It's incredibly confusing, right? Like you missed a step in a dance you didn't even know you were supposed to be doing. Well, psychology actually has a really fascinating hidden reason for this sudden freeze out. Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1, the illusion of niceness, and unmasking the strategy behind it. To really get why straightforward honesty freaks some people out, we kind of have to completely flip how we look at friendliness. As you can see right here on the slide, there's a massive difference between genuine kindness and performative niceness. The nicest person in the room isn't always the most authentic. Genuine kindness is sincere, it's real. People like this actually own up to their mistakes. But performative niceness, that's not kindness, it's a strategy. It's a carefully crafted mask used to dodge conflict, desperately fish for approval, and basically keep tight control over how everyone else sees them. And honestly, a lot of folks learn this incredibly early on. They're conditioned to think that playing nice gets you praise and telling the uncomfortable truth gets you rejected. So over time, they just prioritize this perfectly polished image over actually being real. They aren't necessarily trying to be evil, they're just desperately protecting an image they've spent their whole life building. Which brings us to Section 2, the mirror of authenticity and the actual threat of being real. Right, so we've established this social mask, but what happens when an anomaly enters the system? Like what happens when a genuinely honest person walks into the room and just completely refuses to play by those unwritten rules? They don't try to impress anyone, they just speak their mind and politely disagree when something feels off. Well, without even trying to, they trigger something called cognitive dissonance. That's that incredibly uncomfortable psychological tension you get when your self-image suddenly clashes with reality. The fake nice person desperately wants to believe they're good and authentic. But then you, someone who's actually living authentically, show up, and boom, it shines a massive spotlight on all the cracks in their own facade. They literally start panicking that people are going to see right through the performance they've worked so hard to maintain. The threat isn't your honesty itself, it's what your honesty reflects back to them. Just let that sink in for a second. This is literally the crux of the whole mystery. When these folks suddenly get defensive or overly sensitive or just ice you out, it has almost nothing to do with you. Your authenticity has just turned into a psychological mirror. Just by existing and being your genuine self, you are reflecting back all those deep-seated insecurities that they would much rather ignore. Section 3. The threat of consistency and why silence is terrifying. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that people usually assume fake nice individuals are terrified of being found out or called out by something you might say, but the truth is way more fascinating. They often feel completely exposed just by who you are, even if you never say a single word. It all comes down to social comparison, our natural tendency to evaluate ourselves based on the people around us. Honest people don't go around picking fights, they just stay quietly, reliably consistent. They don't magically change their personality just to fit the vibe of the room. And that quiet consistency, it forces the mask wearer to silently compare themselves, making them painfully question if their own kindness is just an empty performance. That silent comparison alone triggers a massive wave of insecurity. And because honest people operate so differently, they completely disarm manipulation. Let's walk through these points. A mask wearer loves indirect control, right? But an honest person, they ignore the guilt trips. They completely reject the emotional games. They set crystal clear boundaries, and if something's off, they just ask a direct question to fix it. For someone who practically survives on approval addiction and sneaky manipulation, this straightforward approach is absolutely baffling. You're stripping away their entire toolkit. And because you won't be manipulated, you become totally unpredictable to them. And to someone hiding behind a mask, unpredictability feels incredibly threatening. So how exactly do they react when they feel this threatened? Well, open conversations require vulnerability, and vulnerability would totally destroy their carefully built image, so they retreat. And it almost always happens in these 3 exact steps. First up, the gossip. They start whispering behind your back because they desperately need to control the narrative. Next comes the subtle passive aggression. You know, those little jabs disguised as jokes. And finally, step 3, the slow distancing and avoidance. To everyone else, they might still seem perfectly polite, but underneath, it is a frantic scramble to protect their fragile ego from the mirror of your honesty. Which brings us to the ultimate twist, Section 4, the paradox of secret admiration and envy. Because beneath all that gossip and the passive aggression and the sudden icy distance, there is a crazy irony. They don't actually hate you. In fact, they secretly admire your freedom. They look at you and deep down, they wish they had the guts to just be real. To set a boundary without spiraling into guilt, or just go a single day without obsessing over what everyone else thinks. Your authenticity is this glaring, painful reminder of the personal freedom they totally sacrificed just to keep their mask on. You hold so much power without ever having to prove a single point. Section 5, the power of honesty and filtering your reality. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to be super clear. Please don't walk away from this suddenly suspicious of every nice person you meet. Genuine kindness is pure gold. It is literally one of the best and rarest things out there. The real takeaway here is learning to spot the difference between true, authentic kindness and kindness that's just being used as a shield. Sure, when you choose to be unapologetically honest, you're going to lose some people. You'll lose the folks who are only comfortable with a version of you that never challenged them. But what are you really losing? You're just losing relationships built entirely on appearances. Your authenticity acts as this amazing, quiet filter for your life. Honesty doesn't push the right people away. It just reveals who was only sticking around as long as you played a role. It destroys the fake stuff, but it leaves all this incredible space for deeper, actual, meaningful connections. So I want to leave you with one final thought to really chew on. Have you ever watched someone's entire demeanor toward you change the exact moment you stopped pretending to be who they wanted you to be? Seriously, if someone suddenly goes cold when you start speaking your truth, do not automatically assume you did something wrong. A lot of the time, your honesty is just shining a light on insecurities they aren't quite ready to face yet. Think about that in your own life. Reflect on the masks people might be wearing around you, and definitely share your thoughts in the comments. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. And hey, keep valuing that authentic self of yours.